Regardless of whatever opinion you have of the isekai genre, you have to admit that over the past few years, there have been some really great isekais, and it's very clear that even in most recent times, that the isekai genre isn't going to die out anytime soon, but that's okay because there's still some really great isekais that are coming out even in most recent times. And of course, there have been many different varieties of isekais. There are some that are just simply comedic, and it's very clear that they're being made in order to turn your brain off. There's also the ones that clearly just shows us what it's like to be an overpowered main character and just how insane the world is. But of course, there's also the ones that are very serious. And of course, the one that's going to come to mind to a lot of people is Re:Zero. Re:Zero is one of those isekais where there is a lot of heavy plots, and not only that, it shows a lot of very serious moments. And of course, the series has no problem showcasing a lot of very disturbing moments, but also very hard-hitting moments that the viewer might be surprised or shocked to see. And because of these reasons alone, it's not really a surprise that many people consider Subaru, the main protagonist of Re:Zero, to be one of the most tragic protagonists in the isekai genre. Now of course, there's going to be some debate about this, since there's also another tragic protagonist in the isekai genre that many people might know as well, and that's Rudeus from Mushoku Tensei. Rudeus also is considered to be a very tragic protagonist that also has flaws and also has to deal with many things in his own series as well. But if you were to compare what Subaru and Rudeus had to deal with, you can quickly see that Subaru has dealt with a lot of more tragic and disturbing things than Rudeus. Of course, this is not me saying that Rudeus hasn't suffered in this series, but if you were to compare both Rudeus and Subaru, you can quickly see that Subaru is somebody that really shouldn't have to deal with the things that he is dealing with, and that's unfortunately something that's bound to happen due to the world that he is in of Re:Zero. And that's what we'll be talking about in today's video: what makes Subaru the most tragic protagonist of the isekai genre. Natsuki Subaru isn't like your typical isekai protagonist. Oftentimes when you are watching or reading isekai genre, usually the protagonist of that said series is usually overpowered and has a fantasy world that is something that they would dream to be in. But that's not what Subaru's world is. You see, at first Subaru was very excited to be transported into another world, but very quickly he starts to notice and experience the dark sides of this world and starts to see that not everything is perfect. And not only that, but in reality, the world that he is living now is not a world that he wants to be in, but sadly is a world that he is stuck on. Not only does he find out that he only has an ability that's called Return by Death, in which is pretty much like the name says itself. Basically, when Subaru dies in this world, he's able to just simply restart again as if nothing has happened. And while it may seem like Subaru was going to forget what happened that led to his death, you are completely wrong, because Subaru remembers everything that happened. He remembers the moments he did before his death. He remembers the things that happened in his last final moments of his unfortunate death, and not to mention that he also remembers what he had to deal with when he was dying. And now, of course, these are things that are very horrible for somebody to deal with, and of course this also makes it 10 times worse when you are able to remember everything that has happened to you. And that's exactly what is happening to Subaru because of this ability. Subaru is able to remember every little detail that has happened about his death and before his death happened, and this will be traumatizing for a lot of people, because just the fact that you have to remember all the moments that you died is something that's not only tragic and heartbreaking, but this also affects you mentally, as this can cause a serious case of PTSD. And as the things couldn't get any worse, Subaru also finds out very quickly that even if he tries to tell this to anybody, he cannot do that, because if he tells anybody about the ability and what it does, this could lead to that person that he's telling it to die. And of course, there are many characters of the series of Re:Zero that throughout time, Subaru not only builds connections with other people of this world, but it's very clear that some specific people he has deeper bonds with. And of course, witnessing that person die all because you told him about that ability is not something that Subaru wants to do. But at the same time, this isn't good for him whatsoever, because he's just simply holding everything in. He can't talk to anybody about it, and that's really the heartbreaking thing, that Subaru just pretty much has to deal with this and just simply keep it all to himself and pretend that everything is fine when in reality it's not. And it makes it even more sadder when you can see Subaru at his limits. It's very clear that Subaru just wants to let everything out, but he just simply can't. And all the viewer and reader can do is just simply watch as this person, this protagonist, is slowly going insane, and there's nothing that he can do about it but just simply endure it. And this of course creates a path of loneliness, as Subaru feels that in reality he's just simply all alone by himself. While he does have companions and he does have people that he really cherishes and loves, those people sadly don't know the bigger picture or what is causing him to be acting so insane insane sometimes or very fearful, which just showcases even more the terrible state that Subaru is in. He has people around, but in reality he feels all alone. The people around him don't know the struggles and the things that he has to deal with on a daily basis, and it's not like they don't want to know or don't care about Subaru whatsoever. It's just simply that because of his ability, he simply just can't be fully honest about everything that is happening to him, which is why the moment between him and Echidna is so powerful, because once Subaru tells Echidna his abilities but also what he has to deal with this entire time, we can see in Subaru's expression just how relieved he is, but also at the same time really sad the fact that it took this long for him to finally be able to tell somebody how he truly is feeling and what he has been dealing with this entire time. Finally someone was able to hear him out, not only about his ability and what it does, but also just currently the state that he is in. It's at this moment that Subaru at that moment is so glad that even for a short while, even if it was only for once in his life, he was finally able to tell someone what he had to experience, whether it was seeing himself die so many times, seeing the people he cared about die so many times, or having to just simply get used to this twisted world that is ReZero. It's why this moment is so powerful, because we are able to see our protagonist, a broken protagonist, for so long having to deal with everything all by himself, finally having the opportunity to share his despairs, his sadness, his fear with another person without any repercussions whatsoever. But this wouldn't be the only thing that will make Subaru such a tragic protagonist, because even though he has to deal with many terrible things in the world of ReZero, he still has to deal with a lot of things about himself. There have been many moments in this series in which Subaru has expressed his hatred about himself. He hates some things about himself, and he thinks that he is just simply a coward, somebody that doesn't have any confidence whatsoever, and is just simply a completely useless person with no value. That is the thing that Subaru has always been feeling throughout the series, how he's just simply a nobody, somebody that's just completely worthless. As he has stated that even before he was transported to the other world, his previous life wasn't any better, as we come to find out that not only was Subaru pretty much in his room the entire time, but he stopped going to school and stopped having a social life, pretty much indicating that even before he was transported into the other world, Subaru was always feeling alone and wasn't truly happy with his life. It's almost as if no matter where he goes, he can truly never find any happiness, and he feels like his life has no value whatsoever, which is why moments when he does self-sacrifices and it seems that he puts his life on the line, it seems very heartbreaking for the other characters of the series, because it just seems that Subaru is just dealing with everything on his own without having to ask for any help whatsoever, and that of course makes the other characters very sad but also very angry at Subaru, as it seems that he's just simply throwing his life away as if it's nothing, when now he has people that do care about him. Even if they're from another world, he has people that generally do care about him and want him to still be around. And while of course it takes some time for Subaru to acknowledge this, ultimately he realizes that he is not alone anymore. He has people that he can turn to, and even though he can't fully say everything that's on his mind and everything that's going on with him, he can still be at least assured that no matter what happens, he is still going to have people by his side and are always going to have his back no matter what. And this is why me, as well as other people as well, consider Subaru to be one of the best protagonists in recent times. I mean, despite him calling himself weak, that's just far from the opposite, because Subaru has dealt with so many traumatic things and has seen things that no other person could bear seeing. Subaru still went on and pushed forward. He was not going to give up no matter what. Sure, these things did traumatize him. Sure, he was broken on the inside, but he always found a way to push forward and try to do the right things and try to do something in order to cause change. And that is something that I really appreciate about Subaru as a person. Even though he's not an overpowered main protagonist, there is something about him that makes him strong, and that is him never giving up. He always tries to do what is right. He always tries to find a solution to a situation that he is in. No matter how impossible the task may be or how hard his opponent or enemy is, Subaru always finds a way in order to make sure that he comes out alive and not a single tragedy happens around him. ReZero isn't just your typical isekai story where the main character is this overpowered character that no one can defeat or has these very crazy or special abilities. No, it's a story about a protagonist who at first views nothing special about himself and views himself as just simply a complete nobody, eventually finding out that that is not the case. He is not a nobody, he is somebody that's actually very strong. I'm pretty sure anybody would not go through with whatever Subaru went through and just simply keep going forward as if nothing has happened. No, clearly these kind of things would affect you psychologically to the extreme. But Subaru showed us that even though there might be tough times and there might be even terrible things that you may encounter in life, as long as you have a strong spirit, you can surpass anything. And I think that's one of the biggest messages in ReZero, and is that as long as you have strong determination, nothing can be in your way. No matter what obstacle lies ahead of you, big or small, as long as you find a way to overcome it, then anything is possible. So overall, that is the reason why Subaru is one of the most tragic protagonists in Isekai, because this is a protagonist that didn't want any of the things that happened to him. Subaru did not want to be transported into another world. He was a normal person that was just simply going out to get food one night, only for him to realize that he's entered a new world, and sadly that's where his life completely changed. You have to keep in mind that Subaru is still a teenager, so the fact that he had to experience all the things he had to deal with is something that no teenager should ever have to go through. But despite all the tragedies and all the terrible experiences Subaru faced, one thing is very clear. Despite him being completely powerless, Subaru has shown us that you don't need to have superpowers or have OP abilities to be strong. All it takes is to have a strong mind and the willpower to succeed that makes a person truly strong. And that's pretty much where I'm going to end today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.